Honestly, this book was completely unnecessary. Do I hate Emily Henry's writing? This one is just kind of red flaggy. But then again, I'm also red flaggy, let's be real. My non-existent lights are officially up, which is kind of hilarious. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the worst, most disappointing books that I have read in 2022. I'm cold, my room is cold, and the lighting isn't exactly the best, so that's why I'm wearing my sweater with my hood on. So first book I want to share is actually, I think, the biggest DNF I did this year. That's kind of weird, like what constitutes a big DNF? If you didn't know, DNF basically stands for a book you did not finish, and that book, by no surprise by most people, was Book of Night by Holly Black. I was disappointed, to say the least. I really like Holly Black. I read the Cruel Prince series. I really loved it. I read her other books too. This one, yeah, not it. This is her debut adult fantasy series. By no surprise, most people did not like it that much either. It's usually like you really like it or you just really don't. And most people just really don't. My opinion on it is that I barely got into like 50 pages worth in the book, although the cover is gorgeous, I have to say. One of the prettiest I think I've seen in a while. But I think like not enough was going on in those, and I didn't understand much of anything. It was very ambiguous in terms of like the magic system, what the role of the characters, and just like the whole point of the story. It obviously, you could argue like it's a bit too early to get into it, even if it's like 50 pages in, but like you still want to get at least an essence of what the world and the story is trying to, you know, lead to at a certain point. And I just didn't get any of that. And quite frankly, I was a little bored. I just don't think it was right for me or remotely worth reading. So that was that. Okay, the second book that I did not like this year, very disappointing. This is probably, I think, my most disappointed read of the year. And that is Kingdom of the Feared by Carrie Maniscalco, the third and final book of the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy. This one was hugely disappointing. Here is why. I think from the first book, Kingdom of the Wicked, it was just set up to be really different. Enemies to lovers, you know, typical. But like, it was different because it was a girl who was in Sicily, Italy, a different setting, who loves to cook. So there was a presence of Italian food heavily throughout the series at that point. And I was like, this is so good. We get to see some people cooking. And she would describe the food. It was really good. But in this book, the only thing that was really featured was the romance. Now, yes, I think that was honestly what carried the book, was the romance. Everything else in terms of the plot and even some of the character work was much to be left desired from, let's be real. For me, the plot was just confusing as ever. It felt like the author didn't plan the ending of the book right, because it felt like a jumbled mess. I couldn't understand how points from the beginning of the book to this book really connected, and it was just meh. I was really disappointed. I gave us like, I think 3 stars. Yeah, it's definitely the lowest of the series. Do I recommend it? I mean, it is a good romance series, but final note, it does not belong in YA, period. The third book that was very disappointing was The Girl the Sea Gave Back by Adrienne Young. This one, I don't think I had much expectations for this, but I really like Adrienne Young's books. She wrote Fable and The Sky in the Deep, and I was, you know, if she wrote those ones, then this one's gotta be really good too. Far from it, let me tell you. This book easily was probably one of the worst ones I read this year. Here's why. This one is supposed to be like book 2 in the Sky in the Deep duology, although here's the thing, it's more like a standalone featuring some of the characters from Sky, but like 10 years down the road. So they're not usually featured, but when they are, like obviously give some spoilers to Sky. But beyond the point, why this book I did not like it did not make sense. Insta-love was a huge thing in this book, and if you know me at all, insta-love is just one of the worst tropes, I think. It just doesn't make sense how you can fall for someone by looking at them one time. And I felt like that's what this book tried to imply sometimes, and I just did not agree with that. Other things is that the character work did not make sense to me, quite frankly. Although the plot and the world building was really interesting, I'll give that to her. Her writing was good, but everything else was just so disappointing considering her other books are really, really well done for YA. So don't use this as an example for what Adrienne Young writes. This is a book she wrote, I guess, a long time ago, but still much to be left desired. The 5th book, and probably the final one on this list, is going to be Twisted Love by Anna Huang. Yes, a very famous BookTok book is on this most disappointing list. This one is just kind of red flaggy, but then again, I'm also red flaggy, let's be real. My choices in fictional men clearly aren't the best either. However, this one was just sirens going off, red flags everywhere. Like, what is with this guy? What's his name? Alex, and then Ava. Ava was the only person I found remotely good in the story because her characterization and just her past really worked and I really liked it. But him walking his shoes, let me tell you, this guy, it's just his decisions from, I guess, the ending and like this whole master plan he had set up many years ago. It's just like all these things. It was like, why? Why did you do it? Just at times I was like, the ending was just questionable too. I think her writing was fine, the author's writing, but yeah, I don't think I'll be rereading the rest of the series. Okay, and then the final part of this video is going to be my honorable mentions for my most disappointed reads of the year. So the first one I want to mention is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I read this, I think, about March or April. It just felt like a typical rom-com. It is a friends to lovers, like contemporary romance book, basically about two best friends who experienced a fallout in their relationship, but they used to go on these like annual vacations together, and because of that fallout they haven't been really kept in touch until one year they're like, you know, let's make up and go on one last vacation together before our lives split forever, you know what I mean? And so that's where the chaos really starts from there. But at the same time, this book really goes on about like their past relationship and how it led to the fallout. And honestly, the big fallout, they deemed, or they called it, the Croatia trip. And the whole book basically revolved around this idea that that was the biggest turning point. They never recovered from the Croatia trip. I was like, and then when they got to actually explaining the Croatian, and when they explained the Croatia trip and why they had issues afterwards, it didn't make sense. Like, it wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, it was something really ridiculous. And it happened at the very end of the book, which was kind of pointless now because I feel like during like present day action, there was more immediate and like worse things that happened between them that would cause bigger attention than the Croatia trip. It was just confusing. And my biggest thing about it is that it took way too long to actually get into the good part of the book. It took me reading at least like 150 pages of the book to really get into like the nitty-gritty good stuff. Do I hate Emily Henry's writing? We'll have to find out. I'm joking. For me, I've only read that book. I haven't read her other books like Book Lovers or it's some other vacation book. Okay, another honorable mention, a part of the most disappointed reads, is going to be It Starts With Us by Miss Colleen Hoover. Everyone knows her. Do I even need to say much about this? Basically, if you have been living under a rock, this is essentially the sequel / novella standalone after the events of It Ends With Us, the ever famous book everyone loves to shit on. But this book in particular, I wanted to read just, you know, because I want to see Lily and Alice's relationship play out. You know what I mean? It felt like a money grab. Honestly, this book was completely unnecessary. Like, really unnecessary. Like, the whole point of this book was just to say, you know, Lily and Atlas are together. But do you really need 210 pages of a book to really tell you that? But obviously she wanted to make a book out of it because a lot of fans, me included at the time, it's really just like a fan fiction of Lily and Alice, like you can imagine. And then Ryle obviously throws a wrench into everything. But I think the biggest issue here was Ryle. Not like you're surprised. I think the whole issue is that It Ends With Us is that he never sought out therapy. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what is your most disappointed reads of 2022, and if you share of any of them. See you next time. Bye. It's paradise. Won't you take my advice? Nothing's half as nice as you.